So what went wrong? Box office flops 2024. This was a suggestion video from Gap, and I really think this is an interesting idea. And I ended up finding movies that not only have not performed well at the box office, but in some cases couldn't even get me to watch them even when they're free on my streaming service. So let's talk about them right now. All right, box office flop. Sometimes the budget to revenue ratio gets so out of whack. Even if a movie is meh or okay, it's still a complete disaster for the studio. 2024 is not without those. There's some movies that just there's no desire for me to actually see them, like Summer Camp or Fabulous Four, that were complete abominations. The Exorcism movie from Russell Crowe also did not do well. But these are not movies that I was interested in seeing. But there were some movies that were kind of on the radar screen, and I thought, well, for the most part, I would be interested in seeing. So, for instance, let me give you Megalopolis.
There's still so much to accomplish, but is there time?
All right, Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola, Adam Driver, a film that had some intrigue and some interesting elements that were presented, but at the same time also was just even confusing in the marketing material. I'm watching the trailer and I'm really not sure what to expect. The reviews and the information come out later on, and I'm watching sort of like this high expensive Inception meets Blade Runner, but not really. It's philosophical, it's metaphorical. It's like a passion project that's just going to cost too much money, right? Reality is a $200 million movie. It brought in like 13 to 15 million dollars. This is among the biggest disasters in cinema history, if those numbers hold true. I thought it actually had brought in a little bit more than that, but I just pulled it up to verify, kind of stopped me in my tracks. Maybe there needs to be an outtake of my reaction of like, what am I looking at? Because that was not what I expected to see. I thought it opened a little bit stronger than that, but no, it opened for like $4 million. The worldwide gross is showing 13, but again, maybe this isn't up to date. All right, next up would be Joker 2. I'm not calling it by its silly name. I couldn't go see this movie. Todd Phillips didn't want to come back, in my opinion. They made so much money. Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips got a big fat check, and for $200 million, we were going to get them to come back and make another movie. And reality is, it's just got too many things that don't work. Like nothing feels like the movie that we all wanted to see the first time around. Adding Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn was fine. It just isn't a Batman film. It is not a villain film. It's just this weird fan fiction dinner theater nonsense. And audiences knew that going in. There's nothing that was presented. And reality is, I feel like from what I heard of the reviews, they're not getting my money. I might eventually watch this one on streaming, probably watch Joker and this one, but it just sounds slow and boring. Like what's actually happening, what's not happening, and then of course the ending is like, not no interest. So once word gets out that a movie like this is just not going to live up to the expectation, it's going to fall flat. And I think the hype for this movie is really what elevates it to being flop level. It eventually crossed $200 million. I think the budget is listed at 150, but obviously with some marketing stuff that's not at the final numbers, probably going to come in significantly higher. They're going to lose money on this one as well. But the biggest thing was this was such an opportunity for them to make a splash, make a good thing, and have a good box office return. And they just dropped the ball at every turn. All right, let me bag on Furiosa for a minute. A movie that I really wanted to see and enjoy. It's looking forward to in a lot of ways. But then I thought they were going to make Furiosa like an adventure film, like in the Mad Max universe. It would be her going forward. No, it's a prequel movie. I thought, well, we're going to have Mad Max again. In fact, no, we're not. Oh, no one wanted to hear and see more of Furiosa's backstory. George Miller had already done this in a comic book. There's a comic book about Furiosa. To do this movie and then to make it worse, it's this long, drawn out, boring origin, take forever, 20, 30 minutes. We never get to Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, who are great performers. And that's what made Mad Max work. So even when we see the trailer, we see the same stuff. We're just basically getting a female version of Max. That's really what we're doing. We're getting more of the thing that we didn't like about Fury Road. We really want the good stuff in this universe with all of the world building, the characters, the great performances, the set design, all the stunts, all the things that we really do want. And instead, we get this discombobulated mess. I guess it ultimately did eke out about $173 million. So it gets close to back to what the reported budget is. But again, marketing, blah, 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 final numbers, complete bomb for them and a complete miss for an opportunity that they really did have right there for the taking. The thing for me is it just doesn't become a film that I want to go see. It has now landed on streaming, and I've yet to even give it a watch because I just feel like all of the elements of the things that I want to see are not actually going to be in here, and that's the problem. So I don't know. This is probably one on the list that kind of angers me the most. And if there's one that I'm probably going to watch sooner than later, this is probably the one because I'm not that in love with Fury Road. Fury Road has aged kind of poorly for me, but it's still a great film relative to most movies made. And the Mad Max franchise is kind of this nice guerrilla film sort of feel. It's raw, it's gritty. Miller still got his fingerprints all over everything, so it still feels very true to the overall vision. But what a complete disaster and missed opportunity for them. All right, there's no hiding the ball with this last one. The Crow. I wasn't watching this. What a freaking disaster. What a complete debacle. I don't even understand why we're going to make more Crow movies if we're not even going to try. If we're not even going to try to capture some of the elements of what people love. See, I thought they were really just going to go back to the well again, try another knockoff version of Crow, try another character, another, I don't know, just something else that would spin out of the name, but not really ever deliver on what we all want out of a Crow franchise. They're not going to be able to touch or recapture anything that happened with the Brandon Lee classic film. So why do that? And then why hire Bill Skarsgård, this great actor, putting behind all of this horrible makeup and versions of Crow, have it feel right out of the gate nothing like the Crow. And if you read the Crow books, you realize there's tons of great stories in there, but nothing about this feels like it captures the haunting elements, the dark gothic elements. No, this feels like just another contrived fan fiction nonsense. Zero desire to watch this, zero desire to see it, and completely understand why it completely bombed at the box office. The numbers I last saw were like the 40, $50 million range. I don't know if it's eked out more than that. Uh, Reality is it's just a complete loss. All right, I could go on. I could come up with other examples. I'm sure there are tons of movies that I think that obviously should have done better or could have been better, and even movies that have made a little bit of money, like Twisters, for instance. Twisters is not the worst movie in the world, but it's a complete missed opportunity by getting all discombobulated, especially in the middle of that movie. It gets exceedingly slow. What a mess. Alien Romulus. Oh, dear Lord. The final act of that movie is just an abomination. And when you have her dodging acid in zero gravity, what a complete travesty that is. But these movies that don't bomb nearly as badly, hence the reason I didn't put them on the list. But Beetlejuice wasn't going to see this in the theater after I heard such mixed reviews on it, but it did okay at the box office. It crossed like $450 million or so. But for me, there's just one Beetlejuice movie. I knew I wasn't going to like the sequel. I'm sure on the streaming world when it's free, maybe I'll give it a go at some point. But to me, this year has been full of massive letdowns after another. Even Inside Out 2, which is the highest grossing movie of the year, to me is a very generic vanilla version of the original film. Deadpool and Wolverine is a fine, fun film, but not particularly great. I don't think it's going to be a film that everyone's going to lay their hat on as being like in the top 5 of all time. It's going to be super fun. People are going to like moments, but there's really not much story there. And most of what story is there is ripped off from something else. And by the way, watch the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, watch the end of Guardians of the Galaxy when everyone's holding hands and tell me that's not a complete ripoff. Despicable Me 4, I think, is the third highest grossing film so far. And it's, again, a Despicable Me 4 movie. Like, it's Minions and Despicable Me, and it's all fine and serviceable. But this isn't going to be a movie that we're going to talk about 10 years from now or 20 years from now. I don't even know that people think of Despicable Me when we talk about biggest franchises stuff, even though it has become one. So, what is the biggest booming movie of the year? Movies that aren't on the list. Like, I don't know what to say about the state of box office and Hollywood and their disconnect from making good material, especially when they're remaking material that's from the past and they have a built-in fan base. They seem so disconnected from our reality. And I don't know how that's going to change anytime soon. So, anyway, great idea for a video. Appreciate your thoughts on that and more input from you of other ideas like this. It's kind of a fun one to throw out there. Hopefully, I've given you enough to kind of chew on. It's a feedback, and I'm sure I've left some off the list. I know Venom 3 didn't make the list, but it's still kind of out. So I didn't want to kind of completely throw shade on it, so I don't know where the final numbers will land. So, but yeah, love to hear from you guys and get more feedback. Talk to you soon. I'm Pops.